Hello there, and welcome back to Grass Me Up, the podcast that is normally about the science behind grass, lawn care, sports turf, things like that. However, today we're taking a bit of a side quest to talk about ponds. And the reason for that is that lots of places that have lawns also have ponds and lakes. You think of a golf course or a garden, they often have those, and also because I am Dr. Russell Sharp, the founder of Eutrema Limited, and one of our best-selling products is a organic pond flocculant that pulls together all of the blue-green algae, the algae growing in ponds, and the blanket weed, and makes it form a big clump that can be easily removed. And so that's a really good selling product, our organic pond flocculant, because it makes the pond lovely and clear and nice for fish to grow in. So I thought I'd talk about how that works and its advantages over other ways of controlling algae in a pond or a lake. So we're not talking about fish tanks here because that involves a lot of scrubbing and chemicals and filters and things like that. Whereas in a pond, yes, you do have a filter and often a fountain. However, that's not going to remove a lot of the algae because it forms strands. The blue-green algae forms strands that will sit in the pond and not just move around and go into the filters. So you get this blanket forming. That's what forms the blanket, is the strands of algae. They can fix their own nitrogen. So even if there's no fertilizer going into them, running off into the pond, they can still produce the nutrients. And then when the levels get too high, the oxygen level drops when the microbes and other animals try and decompose the algae and obviously use oxygen to do that. Then the oxygen levels drop to the point where fish start to die because they need below the level of oxygen. And also it gets in the gills of the fish and things like that. So lots of people are looking to control algae. It also looks unsightly and it smells when it rots. So people are looking for safe methods of doing that. And so we produce our organic pond flocculant, and we're very open about what that is. It's the exact same product that's in our organic chitosan biofungicide. It's not a biocide. It doesn't directly kill anything at all. What it does is it's cationic, which means it's positively charged. It's one of the few positively charged polymers in nature. And so you dissolve that product up in a bucket, add it to your pond, and that attaches to all of the negatively charges on the algae. Algae are negatively charged. They have all these chemical groups on their surface cell walls that are all negatively charged. So as soon as you put our organic pond flocculant in there, they all clump together really quickly. Like when we're talking within an hour or two, certainly within 24 hours. And so you get the clumps forming that can easily be removed with a rake, or if it's large clumps, or a net. That's the word I'm looking for. A net on a pole net. Or some people leave it there, but it's advised you remove it because you're removing all those nutrients and material that could further decompose. So very, very effective product, very instant acting product, and very safe. So safe for you, safe for the environment, safe for fish, as long as you don't do it too much too quickly. Obviously, if you poured loads of it in really quickly, the algae that's around the fish will clog up their gills if you don't remove it. You're unable to remove it fast enough. So if you've got a really bad infestation, then if you look on our website, it says like add a litre or two every day, just so you don't just have a massive change in chemistry and the water system. But apart from that, it's a lot more environmentally friendly than some of the other alternatives, which can include copper-based biocides or fungicides, which are going to have long-term environmental impact on the pond. That's not great because you have a pond or a lake because you're trying to stimulate biodiversity and help the environment, things like this, or it's certainly to improve the sort of natural landscape. And so putting in biocides is a terrible idea. Often a lot of the blue dyes can be copper-based as well. And the disadvantage of the dyes is that they contain copper, they're heavy metals, they're toxic. If they're just a synthetic dye, then they'll take much longer to work because they're just blocking out light and stopping the algae from growing, which will take much longer than just clumping all the algae together. The other disadvantage of the dyes is they can look unsightly. Often you go to a lot of golf clubs and you're You know, you have to fish your ball out of the water like I do a lot of the time when I play. I don't play that often. But if it's a strange, unnatural colour, you think twice about putting your hand in there. And also, if you're trying to produce something that fits in with the natural environment, then having something that is an unnatural blue colour doesn't actually appeal. Blue is actually one of the few colours, true colours, that very rare in nature. Lots of ponds aren't blue. They're brown, some type of brown or green. And that's why, off at an absolute tangent here, blue is always the last colour to come into languages as languages develop, because it's seen so infrequently in nature that even the Greeks didn't have a word for blue. In some African countries, tribes, they have no word for blue. Not only that, they can't even see blue. They can determine blue from other types of green, because green is far more important to them, because they never see anything that's blue in the natural world when they're out hunting and things like that, or foraging. Green is far more important. Bizarre, yeah. So green, blue, a very unnatural color. And then if you had any other type of pigment color, so like, you know, silver or red, you'd think there was, you know, some massive issue. When I used to play golf as a kid in Widnes up in the northwest, a lot of the ponds were white. That's because it was built on a old dump, a rubbish dump, and actually that golf course got closed down because it was so bad, the leaching the chemicals into the waterways and the systems. So I got a good dose of whatever was in that refuge dump there. So don't do that. What other ways have you got? You could use a filter, but you'd have to somehow move the blanket weed to the filter and things like this, and you'd have to do it all the time. So you can regularly remove the algae. There are a lot of companies selling similar products to ours, but ours is extremely concentrated. We are the experts at producing chitosan solutions in extremely concentrated levels. So our concentration is 5%. We can even make a 6% solution. As I say, we do that. We sell it direct, so we don't go through middlemen. We don't ever use Amazon because we don't want to be Jeff Bezos's bitch. We don't use eBay because we don't like dealing with customers on eBay. We don't deal with distributors for this product. So if you find us, fantastic. You have come to the right place for pond flocculant treatments. Other reasons to control algae and blanket growth is that when they get to very high levels in the pond, they then turn on the genes and produce the chemicals that cause toxicity. So blue-green algae poisoning occurs when the blue-green algae levels get to a point where they sense each other's presence and then turn on the toxins. The blue-green algae is always there to some extent, but when it gets to very high levels, that's when the toxins are turned on. It can affect pets that are swimming in lakes and ponds, and also humans who might come into contact with it. So another great reason to keep on top of your algae levels. One of the main questions we get is dose rates. How much do I need to add per volume of water? And it really depends less on the water volume and more on the load, how much algae, blanket weed is in the volume of water. So we tend to just have a rough estimate and ask people to just add 1 litre at a time until they start to see significant decreases or the algae clumping together. Other things, if it's an alkaline pond or lake, so if it's got a high pH, the chitosan will work faster because it's a mildly acidic product, so it will react with the pH as well as with the algae, and so will clump faster. So that's something to consider. It's not classified as hazardous for use. If you spill any, you'll find that when over 24 hours, it will dry. You can literally just peel it off the floor or peel it off whatever you're dealing with. Don't spill it on your clothes because it will permanently stain them. Because it's positively charged, it attaches really well to clothes. So I have lots of outfits that I've used when we've been manufacturing chitosan, and I haven't bothered to put a hazmat suit on because it's not hazardous, and all my clothes just get instantly ruined. So I have this whole drawer in my house dedicated to work clothes for working with chitosan. So that's something to look at. Just make sure you're wearing overalls or something you don't mind getting stained. It's got the consistency of honey, doesn't taste like honey. And yeah, it's like a brown, thick gel. If you've got any questions about ponds, lakes, treatment for algae, or any of our products, then please do get in touch. We're always happy to answer any questions, technical questions. And we're getting a lot of questions about this product now. That's why I'm doing the podcast on the end of May. It's been very, very hot. It's been up to 32, 35 degrees Celsius. And this has increased the growth rate of the algae exponentially. So it's not like your garden, your lawn that's stopped growing because it's too hot and too dry. Unless the pond or the lake dries out, there's always going to be ample water for the algae to grow. It's going to be enough sunlight, and so the temperature is the critical thing that governs how quickly it builds up. And obviously, as lakes, freshwater lakes and stuff like that, the water levels goes down. That's going to concentrate the algae even further, and so the photosynthetic rate will be faster. So loads of inquiries about this product, and we're getting lots of questions. And my colleague Matthew, that's probably, I'd say about 80% of his time is just answering questions on organic pond flocculants at the moment. So if you type in organic pond or just pond into the Eutrema website, you will find that product. As I say, it's exactly the same as the chitosan biofungicide, just with a different label on, same price, same product, just with different instructions on the label. Very open about that. We don't hide behind any fancy trade names or technical names at Eutrema because we know we have products that are better than everybody else. So we don't need to have phytoponditronic technology, TR7, SPT, and then hide and not say what it is and hide it in the safety data sheet. We're always very confident because we know that no one can make a better chitosan product than us. Good luck trying, because I have spent over a decade trying to make a fantastic product, and we're very confident that ours is the best out there. So check out the rest and then come to us. And that's enough waffle for me about ponds. If you've got any other questions about ponds or lakes, then do get in touch and be happy to answer them if I think I know the answer to a high enough level. All right. Oh, here's a word for you. Pelagic. Did you know this word? I thought everyone knew what this word means. Pelagic just means the open sea, or an area of water that's not attached to the shore or a bed or something like that. That's a useless fact for you. But I went to the Baltic Sea Museum Aquarium in Stockholm this week. So I taught my kids the word pelagic. A fantastic aquarium. If you thought, I don't like tropical fish, I want to see a massive fish tank full of cod and trout, then that is the aquarium for you. You can walk under some cod fish and things like that. Yeah, absolutely bonkers museum. But check it out in Stockholm. Probably the most exciting thing in Stockholm, to be fair. Yeah. If you're a big fan of Stockholm and I've just slandered your favourite city, then let me know. But yeah. Okay, that's enough waffle from me for today. If you've liked this episode, then please check out eutrema.co.uk for our organic pond flocculant. Thank you very much.